All right, Wooly. You don't want to talk about poop and poop coming out of dog buttholes. That's fine. Instead, you have to talk about Final Fantasy. Ha! I tricked you.
I'm okay with that.
All right. So,
Because
one of the more
secretly, it's
interesting,
not about Final Fantasy.
yeah, one of the more interesting things that occurred this week was that I was like, "Hey, Wooly, you're going to use this track as the ending of the podcast. I only do this once every 5 months. It's this track, and it is the new Puppet Bunker main boss theme, which is incredible. But I said, do you want me to just send you the YouTube video, or do you want me to just rip the fucking track itself and send it to you so you don't get spoiled on like the boss encounter? And you went for the non-spoilery option. And I'm sure you told me this like, God, it must have been a year ago that the first one of these came out. What is your plan for that content?
There will
Nier
be
shit
3
that's
of
been
them,
taken away.
correct?
There will be 3. The next one will be, so they do the patch cycle, so it goes like the expansion is 0.0, and then on the odd numbered ones, which would be 0.1, 0.3, which is this one, and 0.5, the 24-man stuff comes out.
Okay. Yeah, so I know there will be 3 of them. I'm in the middle of figuring it out, but I've basically been talking to Min, who's obviously, doing his crazy stuff. And we've been looking at possibly just going like, hey, if you want to catch up on this side of what happened into the Nier content, we might do that together at some point.
Okay, cool. Because it's in this really bizarre place where it seems like it'll probably fit in somewhere, but nobody knows where. If that makes any sense. Like, there's parts of it you're like, is this a prequel? Is this a sequel? What the fuck is this?
So
is
it
this
doesn't
Taro
fit
just fucking with us?
So these little raids don't fit neatly into the timeline then.
No, they're very confusing, actually.
Okay.
They're extremely confusing. They also, and this is probably my favorite part, they also fit really, really poorly into the game itself. There are a couple people out there, particularly on RP servers, who like fucking hate the Nier content because there's been a Monster Hunter crossover and a Yokai Watch crossover and other Final Fantasy games crossovers and the Final Fantasy Tactics crossover. But this one is the most, we took this other thing and jammed it in out of all of them. Especially considering it's got, like, highly advanced androids and flying suits and all that, all that shit.
So if you were to play a raid in any other crossover event with whatever brand, is there a plausible sort of in-world explanation so that someone unfamiliar with the brand can just accept I'm entering a portal to a new world or something like that?
Yeah, so the like Final Fantasy, all of them in general, but also this one especially, have a whole like parallel dimension thing going on with a do you remember X-Death from FF5? The tree guy?
Well, I know I didn't play it, but I know X-Death, yeah.
Okay, so X-Death comes from the Void, and the Void is the crossover point.
Okay.
So there, and that's what Dissidia does, and all that shit. So if Noctis shows up, right? It's literally as simple as I fell through a fucking portal.
Right.
And
it's like creating a live stream. You can just
if this cat girl from fucking FF11 shows up, she's like, "Oops, I fell through a portal." And then at the end of her little guest series, she goes, "Okay, I'll go find a portal, I guess," and leaves.
Okay.
Tigrex, sorry, not Tigrex. Rathalos shows up, and it's literally a Palico going, "I don't know how I got here. I was chasing a fucking Rathalos, and I fell through a portal." Right?
Or the FF15 car.
The one that is I would call it hyper integrated is the FF Tactics stuff, because they just literally said that okay, so Rabanastre and most of the countries that happen in 12 are just there on the south part of the map, and they've always
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah, so it's
And
Ivalice, isn't it?
yeah, Evilis is just a straight up country on the south side of the map, and then you
Right.
go and you meet Fran, and like then you play through the FFT raid, which is a canonical sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics, which is why people's expectations for the Nier thing are so weird. Because at the end of the Tactics raid, you get one extra conversation between Delita and Ramza that takes place after FFT's ending, and it's written by Matsuno. So it counts. It's like a real epilogue to
It's
that game
important,
that came
yeah.
out 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's weird because it like I remember the Rathalos event came out and people were like, "Oh, cool! How do I play it?" And then you go to the page that says Rathalos crossover event, yada yada. How do you get it? And the first line on every single one of these is hit level cap. That's crazy.
So
That's
completely
nuts.
completely excluding anybody who's still on their journey.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
and all the crossovers except for the Yokai Watch shit, because who gives a fuck? They're all at level cap of whatever the particular time is. So I was
I'm a
chatting
fan of
with
this game, but I'm not necessarily an FF 14 fan, but fucking hit level cap before you can do this yourself to find out what happened.
well, the idea is that you go, okay, well, it shouldn't be that long, and then you get halfway through level cap and you go, hey, this is pretty good. Right? Because otherwise you would just start up your free subscription.
Right.
You would go to level 30. Because remember, the game was free up until level 35.
And then,
And now it's free up to level 60. So you got to put it during the paid stuff. But I was talking to Rebecca Ford about it, the Warframe lady. And she's like, oh man, that Nier stuff looks so good. I can't wait to get to it. I've been playing for like 6 months. And I DM'd her. I'm like, hey, Reb, cool. If you need any help, are you on Primal? I'll help you out. What class are you? She's like, oh, I'm playing a Black Mage. Oh, cool. I'm like, oh, cool. Where are you at? What level are you? She's like, I'm level 34. I feel like I'm almost there. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. No, you're not. Because the leveling curve in an MMO is exponential. The amount of time it takes to get from level 79 to 80 is like the amount of time it takes to get from like 30 to 40.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, oh, you better... You fool. And that's the last I heard of that plot.
Well,
but
good thing it's not essential content.
No, it's not. The big patch... So I'll go back a little bit. The big patch came out. The patch that has been the first one in... God, when did 5.2 come? I want to say 9 months. 5.2 F14. February. The last content patch for this game was in February. And then Corona said, no, So, this has easily been the longest time period between content updates. And people are getting very ornery for new shit. So, for example, me and my buddies hang out on Sundays and we just like run like some of the easier raids to get stuff. We got everything we wanted in that time period. The first time ever of playing the game of like 5 years, we got every single mount that we wanted because there was tons of time.
6 months is the longest there's ever been no content updates?
No, I want to say 5 months is the longest before this, and this was like 9.5.
Okay.
Right, so crazy long. So there was a lot of pressure that this be a good patch, because there are occasionally bad patches, and that's a fucking bummer. So first of all, this is a Nier patch, so we got the Puppets Bunker, which is way better than the last one. The last one was the Copy Factory, so it was like the factory from the beginning of Nier Automata. This one is a like crashed version of the Android HQ, and has way more interesting bosses than the last one, and has legitimate nice little twists. and I don't know if you remember me talking about it, but there is a mechanic unique to this where after you're done the raid, the game makes you go through the the explorable area again, looking for audio logs, not audio logs, looking for text logs written in normal ass English, and they fill up in a goddamn Nier Automata style menu.
Ah, nice.
That you keep, and everyone is 100% certain you will have to destroy after the third raid.
Interesting.
Yoko Taro, in one of the first interviews, thought it would be funny to delete your character in 14 when you finish the raid series.
Okay. So, hey, let me take my I'm obsessed with making you lose progress idea and just get super hard over that, expanding into other games.
Yeah, and like the whole team, like
what an
the
asshole.
way they describe it is that they like verbally tackled him to the floor because like
it's not good enough that I've made my own franchise where losing everything is meaningful and you have to have an emotional proposition for it. I need to break out into other video games and start deleting your shit there too. But I promise you, it's for a really good emotional reason.
Not this genre, man. Not. He also, in the last interview, was describing where like he started playing 14 as a white mage, and he only got to level like 30, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't care anymore. I'll just tell me how to design these fights." And
Yoko Taro is Thanosing his way across the video game industry.
Yeah, at one point he describes like, so I was designing the boss and I asked the gameplay guy they gave me, why don't you just make it so that if anyone screws this up, it just wipes the whole fucking encounter and kicks them out? And the response is, because then it would be impossible. And he goes, yeah. And they're like, we're not doing that, Yoko. we're not going to do that. God damn it.
Yeah. Everything must have consequences.
Yeah. It's like, though there are, when you go through it, there are some Taroisms that you can appreciate. It actually is designed very significantly differently from a lot of the other encounters, which makes it a lot of fun. Though there might be a bug with the whole raid, which is a problem.
I feel like to keep up with this charade, since he's done it a couple times, the only way to go from here is to have a prompt on screen in the games to tell you to look around your apartment, find the thing you cherish most, and throw it out the window.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lock eyes with that which you know you need. Find the photo of your grandmother, find the thing you know you can't get rid of, and get rid of it. This is how you progress.
So, people are obviously there to rein him in, which, thank God. There is what looks like a minor bug, or it could just be confirmation bias. But in my entire group of friends, the raid's been run maybe a dozen times, because you're only allowed to pick up one piece of gear a week.
Sorry.
Right?
Someone said throw your insulin out the window. Yeah,
exactly. You don't need it.
Save this virtual character by throwing your insulin out. All right. Anyway, sorry.
All right. So you only get one piece of gear a week, right? Out of every single run of everyone that I personally know, only gear for Dragoons has dropped. And there have been problems in the past where certain raids, for some reason, get like heavily preferential treatment towards certain classes, which makes it impossible for everybody else to get like their gear. I have not seen a single piece of gear drop for anybody but Dragoons, and Dragoons have armors that they don't share with anything else. Like, so you get a situation where a black mage and a summoner, they share gear, right? Dragoons are fucking unique, and you keep. It's confirmation bias. Fucking thank God.
Are there do these things kind of tell you what your loot table is before you kind of go into it? The loot table is pretty much the same in every encounter in the game.
You have stuff that drops armor, and then there are counters that drop weapons instead. And out of that, it can drop any particular thing of its own loot table. So, like, even though we don't know
what I mean though is like, can you click on a button that shows you the rewards for finishing this quest, and then it's like, oh, you will get one of these things dropped?
So no, but because FF14 is really static and very conservative, you know what it is because it's literally been the same thing like 12 raids in a row.
Okay.
So for a 24-man, there's the 5 visual pieces of armor: your hat, your chest, your gloves, your pants, your boots. There is a minion at the end, which is just a tiny little character that can follow you around. There will be a piece of music, and there will also be a token that you get just for clearing that you can use to upgrade gear that you would get from other sources. And that has been the same in every single encounter going back to like 2014.
Okay.
So it's the situation of like you know exactly what the gear is in concept, but it's only once you're in there that you actually see, oh, it's a coat with a high collar or whatever. Oh, and a card, and a triple triad card. My mistake, guys. And the way that it does it is that on the odd numbered patch when it's new, you can only get 1 reward a week. And on the on the even numbered patch and every patch afterwards, they unlock it and you can just run it as many times as you want to get whatever you want.
Okay.
But regardless, it's good. But I wish I could get a single fucking good piece of gear. I'm probably going to end up running it a bunch tonight because resets tomorrow, and if I don't get a piece this week, I will not have one. And that's that.
As an outsider, I can say that my timeline was a waterfall of 5.3 and crying emojis.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. That'll be the last thing that I get to, which is the actual plot, because I got to dance. The other thing that they added, which I would like to make, it's just funny to me because of this one guy in Shout Chat, which is, you've seen those Lalafell potato creatures, the cute race, the chibis.
Yep.
In the setting this expansion takes place, they've been retrofitted as dwarves. They just wear beards. And they have gotten a quest series called the Beast Tribe. It's a crafting thing where you're building a tank. But as soon as I log in, literally the first thing I see in bright red Shout Chat is a guy saying, I love this fucking Beast Tribe quest because it shows that Lalafells understand that they are subhuman garbage. I was like, great, good. Potatoes are basically animal creatures that can speak. Good. Fuck them.
Kickables.
Also, I don't... like, the head translation man, Mr. Koji Fox... You know when people were like complaining about Persona and being like, man, a lot of memes in this shit. Oh, this age is really terrible, these memes, right?
Not really.
I saw a couple, but nothing's compared to this motherfucker. Koji Fox is... the unlock quest for the dwarves is called It's Dwarfin' Time.
Sure.
And like, because they're so terrible, they actually age really well. Because they're not going for cool or even funny. They're actually going for as, oh yeah, the fucking Gunbreaker quest is called Gunblades of the Patriots. Yeah, there's a goddamn million of them.
Sounds like they know their audience.
Yeah, it's they're going for cringe, like cringe is the intention. And then they put out the story, which I mean, Shadowbringers is the one that has like a legitimately super good story because they gave it to the lady who wrote the Dark Knight quest line. And the point 3 series patch is always the one that ends the expansion story, and then the point 4 and point 5 is gearing up for the next one. So you saw a lot of emotionality gifs and whatnot. There has been a long-running, like, I would call it the A thread, right? The A plot of the background story. That's been going since 2.0 in 2014. And the patch that came out last week is the end of that plot.
Okay.
And it is the end of 2 other plot lines that were also established back in 2014. And they totally nailed it. There's a big argument to be made as to how much of this is made up as it goes along and how much of it is actually planned. But a really good example is that in the original game's final boss, this dumbass comes out and starts spouting the craziest villain shit, just like, we need to resurrect our dark god because this, and it's your fault.
Pre-Realm Reborn?
No, a Realm Reborn, right? We need to fucking resurrect our dark god to fucking save the planet and the laws of creation, yeah, and it's just like fucking nonsense. It made no sense.
Okay.
And it made no sense in 3.0, and it made no sense in 4.0. And then you get to the ending of Shadowbringers, and you go, oh, wow, that actually makes complete perfect sense. Holy shit, that's incredible. There's no way they wrote that ahead of time. They must have just tried to figure out a story that made it work. And that also happens again with this last one, where characters that you had no idea how they could possibly, I wouldn't say fix, but make interesting, become the most interesting thing.
Do you know that it's the same writers or writer across
No,
all of these?
it is explicitly different ones.
Interesting.
Every expansion has been written by a different person.
And the final piece ends up making all the rest of it work out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope to fuck they keep this lady running the writing staff on the next one, and so on and so forth.
That is what that is a sign of extreme competence on behalf of the person in charge of the final leg of the race.
Yeah, I believe
because
the scenario writer is like the same on all of them, but like the person who actually like writes it out has been different every time.
That is a toss-up. That can go horribly wrong often.
What happened was I forget her name. I really feel bad. I should look her up. What happened was they added the Dark Knight back in Heavensward. You do your class quests, right? So the White Mage class quest is, some trees are sick with the taint. We got to cleanse the taint, and you do White Mage things and you whatever, right? Her name is Ishikawa, a good Ishikawa. So, and then you Dragoon quest, and it's like, we got to get these dragons. Fucking dragons, right? You know, it's charming but boilerplate, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fucking Dark Knight quest line pops off, and you're engaging with a version of your character that hates the fact that you're an errand boy in an MMO and constantly talks shit about how much time you're wasting on these fucking pointless side quests. And it is this like chasm of quality between that one and everything else. And you're like, okay. And then the quest series for Dark Knight at the next level, great. And the one after that, great. Like, and you're just like, oh my god, they should get this person to write all of these. And the dev team agreed. It's this thing where, you know, this kind of project is made by so many different people that every now and then you get to see like, oh wow, this one piece is way higher quality than everything else.
Well, so what you're describing is reminding me of currently what I experienced with Halo, in that Halo 2 ended up asking way more interesting questions than Halo 3 could answer.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, it ends up being a satisfactory series of answers, but the ideas put forth that are like just questions, you don't know where they're going. The threads put forth in 2 are like they lead to like way more interesting possibilities than what we end up with, which is, you know, sometimes just kind of like a couple of expected straight punches. And it turns out that it's because the writer for 2 did his job, and then they handed it off to other people, and then he was only involved with 3 to the capacity that like he gave them a couple of sentences, and then they carried the rest forward. So
it's a fucking alien. It turns into a grave mind, and
I think he literally gave quotes. I think it was like there's like 3 quotes that he's like, oh yeah, the characters can say these lines at some point in the story, and then the rest was just like, yeah, figure it out, you know?
Yeah. So
if that's incorrect, that's what someone dumped in a giant paragraph story to me to explain what it is. That's what I was told.
Yeah. So Ishikawa gets given the Dark Knight questline. She kills it. It's the best questline in the game. Then they give her, for Stormblood, which was the Asian expansion, they give her what is essentially the Mongolian steppe like tribute area. That's the best zone in the game. And then they go, oh, okay. And they give her the whole expansion, essentially. And now that storyline is essentially over, I feel more confident talking about it, and it's I find it fascinating from not the game story, but like an MMO perspective. WoW has always had this problem, and a lot of MMOs have this problem, where they're. But I'll use WoW as the example. WoW wants you to be the single unit from the RTS, right?
You're apparently what I was talking about applies to Halo 2. Got it. Okay, sorry. Go
on. You're the Orc Warrior, or you're the Human Mage unit, right? And if you were to just pull WoW's camera up and look down, right, it would look like the RTS, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of MMOs really want to put into the idea of like, you're just some guy in a big world, right? 14 has like never done that. It has like a definitive story in which your character is the main character of that plot. But because it's an MMO, your character is limited to, you know, pre-canned dialogue choices occasionally, and is generally a weirdo that doesn't speak.
To be fair, in WoW, you're some guy in a big world, but you have the shiniest, craziest lightning armor.
Yeah,
and you're
but so does everyone else.
Somebody else, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right. In 14, you're like the de facto canonical warrior of light, and you're the one. There are other people that are hanging out, but you're the guy, right? And what Shadowbringers started to do, which was really weird and could have been a disaster, and it started with that Dark Knight thing, is that they let your character, not you, but your character, have agency and a personality. And that could have been really awful if you didn't like it. But it's good. And they also actually allow your character to actually speak without your input, which is also really bizarre, because you spent 6 years playing this mute.
Okay, here's a question, right? The function of a silent protagonist, I feel like we've discussed this a lot of times, but it serves a purpose for allowing people to, you know, self-insert and comfortably just sort of, I guess, like sightsee their way through this world and the story, as the other characters that are your friends are actually making bigger, stronger decisions and saying things and being much more direct about what they're doing. Has there ever been a case where they swerved it, where the silent protagonist starts doing things and having a personality, and like people generally went, oh, fuck that, I hate this, I want to go back to being nobody? Has that ever backfired, essentially?
I can't think of one.
Because I can think of, you know, like, I know that there's games where...
Samus. Oh, yeah, that's the ultimate. And the Fallout character. Samus is the worst,
Samus. Hmm.
Could you imagine if like Gordon Freeman started talking and he was like actually an MIT nerd and he was like an insufferable tech boomer?
I mean,
And he was
Samus
talking about
ends up like if Samus, you know, ends up being like fine in like subspace emissary context, you know,
where she doesn't
but
speak.
yeah, but other M being the one where they throw a whole lot of that in there, certainly. I wasn't thinking of like across sequels. I was thinking of like in a game where
Oh,
it is
well,
revealed at some point that, oh, you are not a self-insert. There is a reason why you're this mute and quiet, and
see,
here's
that's
your
actually
actual
really
personality.
weird because with an MMO, it's unclear whether or not these are sequels or not. Right?
Mm.
Like you ostensibly go to a store and buy Shadowbringers, and that's the sequel to Stormblood. But it's a weird thing.
Okay.
But yeah, your character gets to talk. Your character gets to emote, and every now and then you get dialogue choices in which somebody asks you a question, and your response is, "I don't really have a choice in this, do I?" Or I'm just gonna do that thing where I nod and you make me go kill, 10 giraffe or some shit. But they totally nailed it. The conclusion to Ishikawa was given not the situation of, hey, I'll just ask a bunch of cool questions. They were given the job of answer these questions that somebody thought up 6 years ago, and she nailed it. And then the final encounter, which I don't want to talk about at all because it's a huge pop, is incredible. The music that they showed up with is great, and the little foreshadowing for the future of what is coming in this is fantastic. There's even a weird Yu-Gi-Oh reference in that one of the characters in the game is a astrologian, which uses cards, and turns out he's a goddamn Yu-Gi-Oh voice actor. So he just starts doing Yu-Gi-Oh poses in the fucking background of a scene because fuck it.
Like an English voice actor.
No, the Japanese voice actor.
The
so
Japanese
English
voice actor.
Sense.
Okay.
In English, it's like, why are you posing like that, dude?
Oh boy. Okay. And they yeah, I see. And the English voice actor clearly has nothing to do with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it's just very nice that after like a 9-month wait and them talking about how, all the COVID troubles and all that it's like, oh no, wait, game's still good, game's still great, good, fantastic. That's pretty much what I did with my week when I wasn't chasing the dog around. Trying to level everybody to cap, which is going well, almost there.
I am
listening to my friends on Discord who already leveled things back to cap a year ago, doing all sorts of stupid fucking MMO shit. Is the weirdest, Woolie, because you get like proper in and familiar with that situation that my friend Vel just blew his whole week last week playing Mahjong. But he was playing Mahjong in 14.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a feature in 14, because East Asian audiences want to play Mahjong, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, fuck it, I'll give Mahjong a try. And ended up learning how to play Mahjong and playing a shit ton of Mahjong.
Yeah. Sometimes you're an explorer. Sometimes you're a social, adventurer. Sometimes you switch roles and you just do the thing. You hang out and you play, what is it? Dead Man's Morris on that pirate ship in Assassin's Creed for way longer than you're supposed to. And sometimes you're a beater.
Sometimes you're a beater. So, before I move off the 14 stuff, which I'm pretty much done with, it's good. They recently changed the way the free trial works. Did you hear about that, Wolves?
No.
So the free trial used to be, hey man, you want to play Final Fantasy 14? You can play it for free up to level 35. And the problem with that is that level 35 is literally the worst part of the entire game. So you play up to 35, and like those quests suck, and you go, oh well, I guess it's not that good, and you stop. Right? They have recently expanded the free trial to go all the way up to level 60, which includes the Heavensward expansion, and the Heavensward expansion is great. So if you want to pretend you're time traveling 4 years ago, pretty much the whole game is there for free.
I was gonna say it must be nice to come in late and not have these gaps, and then just do story content one after the other back to back.
Well, on top of that, they also did this thing where back when the game first came out, they were worried that people weren't going to have enough content. So what they did was, with the patches of 2.1 to 2.5, they put 1 million quests in, right? And the problem is that when you played them in a row, like you're describing, Wolves, it was this arduous slog. But when you played them,
you described this before with like tons of sides and bullshit to go through.
Right. So what they did with this patch is they removed about 30% of 2.0's total quests. Going, okay, people want to get to Heavensward. People want to get to Stormblood. People want to get to Shadowbringers. This is the weakest part of the game. Let's cut. So they cut. So now the version of 1 to 60 is actually a much better one than it was 2 weeks ago. And I have a big piece of advice for everybody who is thinking about getting into Final Fantasy XIV with the free trial. There's your server and there's your data center. Your data center is a collection of servers, and you can visit anybody else on on any other server as long as it's your data center, right? So if I'm on Primal, which I am, it doesn't matter what server I'm on, right? I can go visit people in Famfrit or Ultros or whatever the fuck, right? In North America, there's Aether, Primal, and Crystal. Crystal's the new one. Crystal's the one they made last year, and they put you get a buff. I think it's called Road to 70, which makes you go faster in leveling, and it's filled with new players. Don't make your character on Crystal.
Why?
Because it's a fucking shithole. It is an absolute goddamn shithole. Because they put the fucking RP server on it. So you get into this situation. You get into this situation where servers get reputations, right? You had back before you could hop between data centers. You had a situation where Hyperion is the server where a lot of legacy players from 1.0 live, because it used to be a legacy server, right? So everybody on that server is rich. You have a situation where you have Gilgamesh, which somehow became the raiding server. It's the most populated server, and it's where everybody moves their character to raid, right?
You have to pay money to move off of Crystal.
And then you have Balmung. And Balmung was the designated RP server. And Balmung is the fucking ground zero of you don't pay my sub and you do you.
Okay.
Right?
I'm gonna like touch my tongue with my finger and hold it up to the wind for a second here and just kind of guess that is it perhaps a possibility that the RP servers / the RP players happen to in addition to, I guess, I don't know, perhaps being a pretty rough situation to hang around, do they also happen to not be very good at the gameplay part of the game?
They're also not very good at the game part.
Okay.
Now, granted, every server has just people who are terrible, but that Crystal shit, because they threw the RP server on there and they had all the new servers go on Crystal, it's filled with a lot of very new players and a lot of weird asshole RPers. There is a subreddit that I love, I absolutely adore, called Tales from Duty Finder, which is nothing but people taking screenshots of their goddamn text logs of arguments they have while doing content.
Okay.
And it is like hard skewed towards fucking Crystal.
I have a question. What is buying clears?
Oh man, let me tell you.
What is that?
Buying clears is the most legit scam available. So, selling gold is immoral.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sell gold, you will get banned. But if, say, you want, hey man, I want the mount from the new super hard raid, right? And I suck. Well, what I can do is find a group that is so good that they can clear an 8-man super hard raid with 7 people. And I'm just going to pay them whatever they want to drag my fucking corpse through it until that mount drops. And then I get the mount.
Okay. It's literally just jump on the team and get carried all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can do that with Gil, or you can do that with cash. Now, if you do that with Gil, that's technically within the rules, and that's fine. It's fucking gross, but it's fine. If you do that with cash, don't get caught. If the
Min
run
used to sell clears, apparently.
If the encounter is difficult enough that you can't do it with 7 people and a corpse, you get to have the super fun experience of giving another person your login information so that they can literally beat it
just
for
do
you
it for
with your
you.
body.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Now,
it's
I will
exactly
point
what it
out,
sounds like.
even if you're the type of person who would do that, fucking don't do that. Okay? Because there's no reason they can't just empty your character's bank account or items or trash it or...
Like, what recourse do you have if the person says, hey, fuck you, you got?
I can tell you right now. So say, hey, fuck you, it's my account now, I'm transferring all my guild with this character, right? Your only recourse would be to contact support, right? And then you go, hey, this guy took my account. How'd he get in your account? I don't know. And then they go look at the chat logs between... that on that account, and they go, oh, you gave this person your login info, we'll fix that for you, and then they ban the account forever.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Like, there's no recourse. Don't give out your login information, you fucking idiots.
God, it's been really busy at school this semester, and I just don't have time, and my brother was using the computer all the time, so I couldn't get better, so I just wanted to fucking... What was the problem? Fuck.
I'll also give you everybody a piece of advice that if you're gonna run party finder stuff, there's a loot option that you can choose when you make a party that's called Loot Master, which means that the party leader gets to decide who gets what items. If you ever see Loot Master on a party, don't join it, because here's how it's gonna work. You're gonna join an encounter that takes 10 minutes and has a 5% drop rate for the thing you want. The party leader's going to go, okay, it's Loot Master so that I get the first one, but then we'll all stay and get everybody who joins their stuff. And you go, it can take 300 clears to guarantee that this drops for 8 people. That's like 100 hours. I don't think you're going to bust out 100 hours of runs on your fucking Sunday afternoon. It sounds Like, you're just going to steal the first drop and fucking run. No, I would never. And then every single time, that's exactly what happens.
Right. Man, shout outs to that kid that was back in my arcade when I used to live with my mom's apartment, and he was at the arcade, and he would basically take not that much. I think it was like $20, maybe $25 to play Gauntlet Legends with your character and max it out.
Great.
He's like, "Yep, hand me a 20." And I think it might have been plus the cost of the quarters to play, but he would make 20, and he would just be like, "Yep, I'll be here maxing your character out, so that whenever you feel like coming over and playing your maxed out character, you know, I got it." And he would just do it IRL.
Yeah, you can do that. You can have somebody power level your thing. One of the reasons they add the jump potion, they call it. Well, they actually don't call it that. They call it some fancy fucking. But the reason those games add the jump potion, which is buy a $30 straight to skip to level cap thing,
catch up to the content, yeah,
is because if not, the people will just do what you literally just described. Right? Mm-hmm. People are going to pay money to get their character to level cap, and they don't give a shit.
Might as well get
so
a cut of that.
So the company goes, well, might as well be us.
Yeah.
Gets it.
Yeah.
It's always fun seeing those players because you can feel it. Like, you can literally fucking see it with your eyes that they used the skip. They all have the same gear set on, the gear set that's given to them for free. And then they're hitting random buttons. It's always a fun experience for me when you're running a dungeon, and it's a dungeon where your class shit is autopilot, right? Like, you know, I don't have to look at the fucking screen to do my rotation, so I can look everywhere else on the screen I want. So what can you do? Well, if you know the animations of the other classes, you can just watch the other character and know exactly what they're doing, and you can tell that they're doing nothing.
It's interesting because
that they're a fucking black mage hitting Ice 1 80 times in a row.
It's interesting because, like, this particular thing, the more purely multiplayer a game is, the sillier the proposition gets. For example, give me your login info, I'll get you to Grandmaster in a whatever fighting game ranked mode, and then you go back and log in and you're like, great, I'm in Grandmaster, and you fight once and you just get annihilated so hard that you get booted back to fucking nothing.
Yeah, it's a fool's game because you're always going to have to, if you don't improve, you're always going to have to keep paying to get back in. Right.
But like in that context, it's purely multiplayer and the bragging rights of the situation. Whereas in this case, there might actually be content access that you are being denied or whatever the case may be, you know. But okay.
It's dude, I could do a 4-hour podcast on like MMO social conventions, and like the most infuriating of which, and it's just so I've told you about you don't pay my sub. What has become more prevalent as of late is you worry about you. Hey man, did you know you could actually cut the damage on this if you just hit this one button that's free? Don't worry about it. What? Well, no, but I'm having to heal you. It's much harder. No, don't worry about it. You just do you. I want to scream. My buddies went into, they went into a level 80 fucking trial the other day, and they look and they're like, why does the black mage die to every mechanic? And that's because the black mage is wearing gear from the last expansion. They went a dozen levels and a full expansion without ever putting on a single new piece of gear. And usually when you confront people like that, you go, hey, why not? And like, don't worry about it. No, I just like it this way. And it's like, you are intentionally making the game so miserable for yourself because your character is so much. Why? Just put a fucking piece of gear on.
That didn't. Okay, I'm not. I don't know what. How often do you change gear in this game?
Every level.
Okay, okay, all right.
Every single level. And at level cap, like every week. Like it's crazy. Like, are you enjoying going through the story trials? Like, barely managing to make it through because your character dies instantly?
Now, I will say this: the closest thing I've ever had to an experience in this way was when I used to play Overwatch and Apex with like Skull God and some other people that were like way better than FPS games than I was. Excuse me, am. And I will say that like playing that way straight up forced me to get better at a lot of things simultaneously, and I very much enjoyed how hard that got. And I feel as if like it's almost like you're the shitty drummer in a really good band, and you kind of just have to rise to the occasion a little bit, you know. So I do appreciate a little bit of that. But
I'd like to take a second because I saw something that was, this just seems like me being an OCD control freak, and this just seems like getting mad that people play the game differently. And I understand that criticism from people that don't play a game like this, because it just sounds like, well, they're not min-maxing it or whatever. Shame on them. The thing is that in a game like FF14, specifically the way that the system works, there is not a different way to play. There's a good way and a bad way. Like for example, you look at a raid, right? There's a timeline of events on that raid of like you look at, and you can go at 22 seconds after the pull, the boss will do this. At 35 seconds after the pull, the boss will do this, right? There is a numerically perfect way to play that fight. And the goal is to get as close as you possibly can to that. If you are freestyling it, you're not playing differently, you're playing badly. You're less effective. And if this was a single player game and you wanted to play Devil May Cry 5 by doing 95 stingers in a row, fine. That's just fine, right? The problem is, let's say I'm a tank and my gear is 10 levels below what it's supposed to be. Encounters that I join up might be incompletable because the healer just literally can't heal me enough. You might run into situations where, because you're a damage dealer, you can't beat the boss before its end rage because you literally don't know how to do enough damage. And when you do that and you go, no, I'm just doing whatever, you're basically expecting everybody else to carry you. And if you do end up not being able to clear it because of your stubbornness, you're essentially wasting 10 minutes of time times 7 for everybody else in the gang.
Also, Devil May Cry doesn't have unavoidable damage.
It doesn't. Man, MMOs have shit tons of unavoidable damage. Like, I mean, that's what a raid wide is. A raid wide is, at this point, everybody going to take this much damage, and that's it. Heal up or die. So it's just this thing of like, no, they're not playing different. I'm not casually playing. It's not about, like, if you can, people who play casually are not the problem. People who play bad on purpose are the problem, right? In a fighting game equivalent, it would be, did you know that if you block low, this guy won't sweep you? Because it blocks low. And the response comes back, you worry about your own character. And it's like, I'm talking to you and you're on my team in the 3v3 at SBO. Right?
Right,
like,
right.
dude, block him low for fuck's sake.
It's I just want to, as an aside, I just want to say it's funny you brought that up because there was a fantastic tweet that popped up, which is Chris Hu, commentator extraordinaire,
I was talking to Paige about Chris Hu because of this. I was explaining to her, like, this guy makes no sense. Listen to this combo clip. And she's like, what the fuck is he saying? I go, I don't know.
It's the best. It's the best. He's great. But like there's a quote where they basically went, why don't you block the overhead if you know it's coming? Right? Yeah. Like, why do you still block low? And he said he said, we don't drink water from the tap because we know that the tap sink area water might be dirty. Yet when we have a dirty apple, we use the tap water to wash the apple and then eat the apple.
And then he goes, do you understand?
And I'm like, no, that is Chris. That I completely understand. That is 2000 IQ. That is amazing. It is going, there are two problems here, and one is being used to fix the other, and the lesser of the two evils is one that I will abide. So I will keep blocking low, because if you land that overhead, you're not going to get anything off of it. Versus if I get knocked down or opened up, it's a much worse punishment.
Okay, see now, hey, see you should just translate fucking Chris Hu.
Yeah, it's almost another way of saying take the throw, you know. But it's like, dear God, what a fucking like $1,000 quote right there.
You know what's a great, like, good timing of me bringing this conversation up again? Have you seen this clip of this dude? Scrub Quotes retweeted it recently, of this guy complaining about a Fall Guys player.
No.
So it's a dude reacting to a guy's TikTok, and guy number 1 is playing that hexagon game in Fall Guys, and he is crushing it. He is knocking everybody into the ocean. He's, picking all the right hexagons. And guy number 2 is essentially complaining, see tryhards that just play to win and just always, everything's got to be about winning. It's so sweaty. They're what ruin games. And it's like, the implication other than that is, assuming you're not just mad that you're not as good, is that you're playing to lose. Or that you somehow don't care about success at all.
Okay.
Which everyone knows isn't true.
I can say, as someone with a fucking near PhD in the discussion of the difference between playing for fun and playing for glory.
Yeah.
That someone who's saying that is absolutely coming from a place where, at a pure level, they're just like, I wish I was that good, but I'm not. That's what they're feeling.
They could also say, I wish that I could enjoy this game while only putting this amount of time into it.
Right. And
so that happened to me with Overwatch, where it's like, I liked Overwatch, but I wasn't willing to put the time in to play with the sweat meats. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, darn.
And that extrapolates.
That's not their fault.
Like, that extrapolates all the way over to, as I've discussed it with, like, back in the day with fisticuffs, and then to the current, you have the guy at the college Smash setup who's playing way too competitively while everyone is just trying to dick around between classes and have fun. And you're ruining the mood and you're ruining the event by winning too hard. That's the energy they're hoping to convey. But it's really and truly just, you're super mad that you're not that good compared to the way this guy's playing. That's what it comes down to.
I see a really good comment in there that I'd like to respond to, which is, guys, not everyone plays video games as a day job. You're completely right. And before 2012, neither did I. And this attitude goes back to the time which I was 5. because I didn't want my brother to take it easy on me in Street Fighter, even if he kicked my shit in, because I wanted to actually play a real fucking match rather than a baby match where somebody just coddled me.
Allow me to elaborate for a second too, and say that if that asshole at the college Smash setup was enforcing stage selections, item rules, and things like that were then
that would be outrageous.
Actively getting in the way of the way everyone's playing the game, that is a different thing.
Yeah, go to
from
hell.
The person
You're ruining food for real.
That's very different from the person playing with you, doing whatever you want, but just being really good at it.
Yeah.
With all the items and bullshit and everything going.
And then when you get into a game in which is a team game, and I mean, I can use 14, but it's way more fun to use Overwatch. I want to be Widowmaker. You're not good at Widowmaker. I don't care. I want to be Widowmaker. We're gonna lose because Widowmaker, right? Like, just we already have 2 Widowmakers. Widowmaker. I'm the sniper, and it's
Ryuga waga teki wo kuro. Thanks, Hanzo.
It always comes down to the same feeling of like, you don't pay my sub, right? But it's more than that, because it expands way past games that have subs. And it's like, I get to do whatever I want with my game, right? But that means other people get to do whatever they want with their game, which includes telling you to go fuck yourself for playing the 3rd Widowmaker. See, in a game with like pure matchmaking, like, you know, like Overwatch or something like that, I mean, you're never gonna run into that guy ever again, right? It's gonna be like a negative experience. You're gonna tell them to fuck off, maybe get a little toxic, but then they're gone. They're gone the instant that log off happens. In a game like 14, where you're running through Party Finder, and people have persistent named characters, that can follow you.
You know, I think based on this conversation and the earlier one a while ago about that dragon thing, whatever it was.
DKP!
Yeah, sure. Right. That.
Dragon kill points!
Okay, all right. So that. Also, I'm reminded of your journey into top, mid, or jungler. And I'm also reminded of there was another one in there, but the point I'm making is this. Games where you in particular are forced into a cooperative situation have high enough highs that you are willing to go into them as much as possible and enjoy that. But like, the problem with forced cooperation is that it creates a lower than any other single player loss can give you.
It's the lowest low that could ever be.
Yeah.
So, I'll use a 14 example because it's the one that comes to mind the best, but I'll also use League. There was a raid series.
Apex as well.
Yeah, Apex is a good one too. There was a raid series back in Heavensward where people said, the 2.0 raids were too easy. So they went, okay. So they did the 3.0 raid series and Gordius, right? And the way that Gordius was tuned for damage was that if a single person died at any point during the entire encounter, even if you raised them, you would never be able to make up for the damage loss of them being dead for a minute, and you would fail immediately. Like, you would never be able to catch up damage-wise. So it became known as the Static Destroyer. And a static is your group of 8 people that you play with every week instead of, randomly match made. It's your static. Because it very, very quickly would expose situations.
The weakest link.
Where 5 or 6 people are killing it and 1 or 2 are not. And fuck, right? That can get really genuinely emotionally awkward, particularly if you've been friends for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine cutting people from the team in Little League, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now it's like a bunch of adults, and you're like, dude, I just want to clear this fucking fight.
But we all subbed together because we're a group of friends
dude,
that
I
want to play
know
together.
you don't have enough time to play lately because of the baby.
But I'm only I'm only paying my sub to hang out with you guys. That's the only reason why I'm subbing.
And you have people that are joining for different reasons. There's the guy who's like, dude, I just want to crush the hardest content available. And those people invariably end up leaving their friend statics to join statics of people who they don't know, which will include weirdos out in Sweden and Germany, and they'll start raiding at 4 a.m. because those dudes are kick-ass and they will clear. And then you have the other group that's like, that's what I'm currently doing. It's like, let's just hang out on Sunday and do the thing, right?
Now here's the
One
question.
day a week, we'll just hang out.
Can the person then who's been kicked out log in, see all the rest?
Oh, absolutely.
On active 100%. In there doing the thing.
Oh yeah. You go to your friends list and it shows what instance they're in.
It
sucks. And that's
they come back with a little icon that says they beat it. Yeah.
Imagine going into fucking a group and you go, everybody knows how to do this. We're just gonna bang out some clears, and you get like 10 seconds in, and it's always the best part because every time in 14, when you're a new player to any activity, right, it always gives you a little bonus for clearing. So it'll say, hey, there's a new player in this instance. That means that everybody will get 50 extra poetics. But if you do like a farm party, which means everybody has it on lock, and you load in and that bonus comes up, everybody starts to go insane. Because it's like, who the fuck is new? How can this be a fucking farm if somebody's new? Who the fuck doesn't know what they're doing?
Right.
Can you not read, motherfucker?
Also, what if the your old group of friends grabs someone else that's a vet, and then they crush it, and then they're like, hey man, you're pretty good, why don't you hang around? And suddenly your clique has replaced you.
That happens. I stopped raiding with my group of guys for about a year in the middle of Stormblood, and they replaced me with a different tank. And,
dude, the new kid's basement is sick. He's got a pool table. We're going to his house.
One of straight up, one of two things happens. Either that person is cool, and you probably end up getting to know them, and you'll figure out whatever happens, or that person is not cool, and the instant you go, hey man, I'd really like to come back and take my spot back, people go, okay. At the next patch, we'll be like, hey, our old friend is coming back, sorry, and then just push them out the fucking treehouse.
Or
you end up with these situations where, well, they say you have 6 group of friends and you want to play 14, and you and your 5 friends are good pals, and right? You're all cool. But all of you are DPS and healers, and you need 2 tanks. Well, problem is tanks are rare, and it's a buyer's market for tanks. So you're gonna go into PF and you're gonna ask around and you're gonna try and find people, and guarantee you, one of those dudes is gonna be annoying as shit, but you'll live with it. Because you want a goddamn clear.
Based 1v1 games, you're a loner from the get-go.
Yeah.
Only trust your fists.
So no one else is. It's the way that you described it, like League of Legends, if you have one bad player on your team, you've lost. Right? And you can I played enough League to get to understand just why it's so toxic. Because you can tell from the first 10 seconds of the match in many cases if you're going to lose. and the games are like 40 minutes long.
Hmm.
If you are playing and you see Mordekaiser go mid, fuck. I might as well just quit now. I might as well just fucking give up. And like that is infuriating.
Like again, it's you just the both MMOs and like fucking MOBAs where you're describing you can watch 40 wasted minutes about to start. Like that. I've never felt that.
I can't leave. Like,
I've never
queue.
felt that, and like, dear God, will I do everything in my power to never feel that?
Well, Overwatch
That
probably
is
had it
unique.
the worst of any game I could ever hear, because when you would start the ranked match and then someone would drop and you still had to play the match.
Yeah.
Like, holy
And-
shit.
It was garbage.
No
It was
chance.
garbage when it happened. It was garbage. It was not no chance, but dear God, was it fucking rough. And for the most part, like, at least those games are, over in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So
You totally nailed it. These multiplayer games, given the correct circumstances, can give you the highest high. Why do I have a phone call? Excuse me. Mom and Dad, I'm currently live on the internet.
Ruh-roh.
Excuse me while I text my father and be like, Dad, I'm live on the internet right now, please. But yeah, the highest highs, absolutely. Like when me and my buddies cleared Pizza Party for the first time back in fucking 3.3 and beat Thornton after like a month, and we all cheered and we're like, yeah, we did, this girl, we beat Thornton, woo, right? That was great. The time where my dumbass buddy Cog subbed in on a Scholar, a class he doesn't know how to play, and was able to mitigate like a giant like raid buster down to the point where you get to see a 0 pop up on your health bar. Like it literally says 0 exclamation point. That's the amount of damage it did.
Mm-hmm.
That was hilarious, right? The time that I personally screwed up a mechanic 12 times in a row, and no one could figure out why we were wiping until I realized it was me and went, oh God, it was me. And then everyone gave me shit for like 4 years. That's a fun experience.
Right.
But on top of that is every single fucking time I go into goddamn Duty Finder, I am rolling a dice roll to deal with fucking idiots.
I hope it's worth it.
It's
Seems like
super
it is.
worth it.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why people like fucking get sick of these games and fucking crash out. I won't even say burn out. Right? Like crash out. Like they have one extra bad day and they're like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Now you're describing like, 1 out of 8 people being garbage and a thing happening like that.
WoW, you could be one good one in a team of 8 garbos.
Right.
That.
But like if 39 out of 40 people are competent in a WoW raid, right?
Yeah.
Like I assume that like you can mask that more with bigger numbers.
I'm not personally familiar with WoW raids, but it is my impression that one person, the number one thing that can fuck up in a WoW raid is if one of those 40 people walks a little too close to something they're not supposed to walk too close to.
Mm-hmm.
And pulls like 10 guys onto the raid while you're doing something, and then everybody wipes. Like the famous clip of the guy screaming 50 DKP minus over and over is because people aren't in the spots they're supposed to, or people aren't throwing the dots down they're supposed to.
So he's just giving everyone demerits.
It's you can go look it up if you're not familiar. It's this guy. Like he's the raid leader and he's on voice, and he's like more dots, more dots, more dots, more dots, and then starts like the fucking dragon whelps come in on the left side, and he's like, who the fuck isn't picking up the whelps, and just starts yelling out 50 DKP minus, 50 DKP minus over and over to everybody on the left side. It's like, shut the like. It's the most toxic shit that's ever been recorded.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, obfuscating it in particular language definitely amplifies that effect.
Yeah.
Cool.
That mentality is I am an RTS commander and my units won't do what I tell them.
Exactly. That's the fucking dude.
And that is the most fucked up way you could ever look at a team of people ever.
Nail on the fucking head. That's super on point. My units are not listening to me. Oh my god. Yeah. Interesting.
Like there's a difference between. There's a wild difference between yelling at people to pick up the left side because that's what they're supposed to do, and my buddy Vel making fun of me by calling out 70 times in a row that I have to pick up the meteor on the left side of Ruby Weapon because I keep fucking it up. And he goes, Pat, you gotta pick up the yeah, I know! I goddamn know, Vel. We cleared it 109 times. I fucked it up like 4 times. Okay. I fucking know to pick up the meteor. God damn it.
Okay.